Roger Goodell's pining for an 18th game of the regular season will be part of the conversation. Brooke Pryor from ESPN. She covers the Steelers as well as the National Football League proper, and she joins us at BE Pryor on Twitter. First of all, is there an inflatable duck anywhere near you right now?
Zero inflatable ducks, but I did buy 2 new pool floats at Costco last night that are unfortunately not duck themed, but as far as I know, they do float. So that's exciting for me.
Well, they are inflatable. Theoretically, that would be self-explanatory. Did you say this, that Justin Fields might be returning kicks for the Steelers? I wouldn't do that if I were him.
I don't believe that will actually happen. The Steelers special teams coach, though, apparently suggested it in a team off-season meeting, is what Jalen Warren said during the NFL draft. He was on a podcast with Cam Hayward and said that Danny Smith in the face of everyone.
All right, we have gremlins. We need to move. Just tell Brooke to take like 2 giant steps to the left. Also, I'm going to ask her about Payton Wilson, who I think will be a great fit on the Steelers defense, but I don't want it to get in the way of our guy Alex Highsmith, who I know just restructured his contract to give the Steelers some more contract flexibility. All right, so go back to this crazy notion that Justin Fields might return kicks. That just seems like a suicide mission for him.
Yeah, there's no chance that happens. Danny Smith floated that idea apparently at a team meeting, is what Jalen Warren said on a podcast with Cam Hayward during the NFL draft. But I don't see that really happening. I think the Steelers would rather put a lineman out there to return kicks before they put their backup quarterback, who could potentially be, the next franchise guy, depending on how Russell Wilson pans out and how the rest of the season pans out.
Yeah, I mean, again, even if he doesn't pan out as a quarterback, Fields is a quarterback. Whether he's a good one or not, I guess we'll find out over time. But, I mean, this is not Tim Tebow. No offense to Tim Tebow, who was a terrible quarterback. I mean, As an NFL quarterback, there's just no other way to look at it that he was bad at it. And that was to stay in the league, to do other things. I think Fields can be a starter in this league. I don't know if he's going to be a good one or not, but he can certainly be a starter.
Oh, yeah. And I think that Danny Smith suggesting that is, I wish I could have seen the faces of everyone in the room, because everyone knows that Danny Smith is a wild man who just thinks wild thoughts. He's a Yinzer treasure. I think that he looked at Justin Fields' 40 time at the NFL Combine a couple of years ago. I think he ran a 4.45. He's crazy fast, very mobile, and Danny Smith just started his brain started going a million miles an hour. And I think that he's probably going to have some coaches, maybe like a Mike Tomlin, to tell him, hey man, let's come back down to earth a little bit and think a little bit more realistically, because we're not going to put a potential future starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers backfielding kicks. I don't care how safe the rule change has apparently made it.
Brooke Pryor is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show at BE Pryor. She covers the Steelers as well as the NFL. We'll get to the 18-game schedule in a second, or because I assume that they're going to do that because the players don't want it. The drafting of Payton Wilson, who obviously we saw here the last couple of years, healthy and dynamic and one of the best players, certainly the best defensive player in the ACC, one of the best defensive players in the country. That's what the awards seem to say. A, is he a perfect fit for the Steelers? And B, how does it impact my new favorite Steeler in Alex Highsmith?
Yeah, I think that drafting Payton Wilson, I had talked with some scouts on the pro day circuit in North Carolina a month ago or so, and I kind of said, hey, who do you have your eye on? And even back then they said, well, there's this linebacker at NC State that's really good. Instantly knew they're talking about Payton Wilson. This is a team that's been searching for a Ryan Shazier replacement since his catastrophic, career-ending injury, and I think that they see Payton Wilson as someone that could maybe fill some of those shoes. I mean, they hoped that Cole Holcomb would be that guy, and Holcomb was playing really well last season until he had a season-ending knee injury, and that's been a pretty significant injury. My understanding is it's not just a simple ACL tear, and they're being very vague on what the specific injury is. And so I think that this is, in some ways, insurance for the Cole Holcomb signing, and gives them, a starting caliber inside linebacker to play, when the season gets started, because Holcomb's recovery, his timeline isn't quite clear. I think that Payton Wilson pairs really well with Patrick Queen and with Landon Roberts. To me, this is the continuation of kind of a 2-year effort to really completely redo the inside linebacking group, especially when you look at, that they got rid of guys like Devin Bush and the starters from a couple of years ago. So this is just the continuation of that. And I don't think it necessarily affects Alex Highsmith. I think that he's sitting pretty right now, paired opposite of TJ Watt. I think that this defense is really strong, and some areas where they maybe didn't have depth a couple years ago, like the inside linebacker group and the outside linebacker group, they've really got a good set foundation and rotational players behind them that, this defense should be really good going into next year. It's just going to be, can you keep Justin Fields away from returning kicks? And they should be good to go.
Oh my gosh. Can you get something out of Russell Wilson? Look, I think that this is not just a 2-year blip. I think it goes back really 3 years now. Last year in Seattle, the 2 years in Denver. He's obviously not the same. He hasn't really suffered what we know to be, serious injuries to his throwing arm or what. But some guys just kind of go the other way at some point in their careers. But like we saw Kurt Warner do that, but he also bounced back. I don't know. I have no idea what to make of Russell Wilson, but they certainly have at least 2 options at that position. Let me ask you this, Brooke Pryor, because this goes back to the draft. And Roger Goodell, not even thinly veiled, talked about, going to 18 games, because that 18th game is so much better than a third preseason game, as though those were the 2 options on the table. What would you rather have, a third preseason game or an 18th regular season game? Of course, assuming that all those NFL players ever play in a preseason game. What are your thoughts on 18 plus 2 buys? Joe Burrow says a week off for everybody at the same time, shutting the league down for a weekend, which I laughed.
Yeah, the league's not going to do that. It's a cute idea to shut everything down for a week and take like an all-star type break, but they won't do that. But you're right. I think that this is something that the league has decided they want. They'll push it through. It doesn't really matter what the players think. They'll, throw them a bone. They'll give them a second bye week and, try to, make it better for them, or, say, hey, at least we're giving you another week off. But I just, it's all about money, and it's all about the viewership. And the NFL right now, I think, is just a train on the train tracks that's just going full speed ahead, and nothing is going to stop it. They are more powerful than ever. The owners are incredibly influential, and I think that, they see the bottom line. They see how much more money they can get in terms of ad revenue and ticket sales and everything else, that it kind of feels like it's a done deal, even if players say they don't necessarily want it and it's not, what's best for the players in terms of health. I think this is a runaway train at this point.
Brooke Pryor is joining us here. I remember going back to before the last CBA negotiations, and prominent players would say the 17th game is non-negotiable. Obviously, that was an incorrect statement, because it became negotiable and we have it. And we all knew that was the precursor. That was just the first step to get to 18, because there isn't anybody out there that thinks 17 makes sense, to give, unequal numbers of home and road games in a regular season. That's just silly to me. So they're going to get to 18, but maybe it's just my natural skepticism. but why not 20? Like, why would they? What incentive is there to say, you know what, that's too much? Like, if we can make up a streaming service, Shmulu down the road decides, you know what, we want to give you $3 billion just to air weeks 19 and 20. Think the NFL would turn that down?
No, I think you're absolutely right. Money talks, and it is very loud in this league. And I think that it's going to take really strong leadership and pushback from the NFLPA to draw a line and say, no, we are not going beyond this. And I think that it's going to take serious data that shows, increased injuries or whatever else. And it's going to have to be a lot. And it's going to have to be very concrete, because on the other side of it, there's going to be black and white numbers that show how much more revenue the NFL is bringing in from these extra games, or even from the possibility of extra games. So I think that it would really take a big player empowerment movement to keep the NFL in check, not only, to not go to the 18th game, which I think at this point feels like, it's going to happen, but to continue expanding beyond that. Because you're right, at some point, it feels like we're going to end up with the NFL as a year-round league, and that simply can't happen because of how violent this game is. These guys need a break, but even as it seems right now, it feels year-round because you finish up the season, these guys go back and start doing their individual workouts, but in just, a couple days, the Steelers, their rookies are reporting to rookie minicamp, and then they'll have OTAs in 2 weeks and, 3 OTA sessions and then a mandatory minicamp, and then you get a month and a half off and you report for training camp. I mean, it already is year round, and now it just feels like that's going to feel, even more the case. I
think you made the same mistake I did. I thought that NFL Play 60 promotion was about youth sports and physical fitness. As it turns out, that's their long-term plan, is to play 60. I don't think they'll ever. I think this will continue. And what I think what we'll have to do is we'll have to wait. Let's just say 5 years of 17. Well, by that we'll have 18 games, and we'll have some data. And I think what we're going to find out is that the longer seasons shorten careers, and it ultimately will be a net negative for players financially in the whole. Not to mention the schedule, not to mention the contract lengths, when it's cheaper to pay rookies than it is to pay veterans. All of these things are going to contribute to the NFL being a bad deal for players. And until they're willing to sit out an entire year and miss that paycheck, I just don't think anything's going to change. Yeah,
I think you're right. I think that this is really going to hit an inflection point in the league in a couple of years, but it is going to take kind of a body of evidence for, these guys to show, hey, this is why this is bad. And I think that we are heading toward a labor conflict in a couple of years when they get ready to negotiate the next CBA. Because right now, this is a league that does not benefit players, that is not made with the players in mind. They can say, look, we banned the hip drop tackle, but I'm pretty sure the NFLPA was against them banning it.
Yeah,
so
they were.
Exactly. They'll say, hey, we're doing things for player safety, but it's not the things that the players want. So, I think that it's a really interesting time to be covering the league and to see how these things are going to unfold down the line. But right now, it feels like whatever the league wants, the league is going to get.
Brooke Pryor, we want more of you. At BE Pryor on Twitter. Thank you very much. Enjoy the inflatable pool toys.
I will. After rookie minicamp, straight to the pool.
All right. Thank you very much. Brooke Pryor here on the Adam Gold Show.